right. Hello, everyone. Anybody who's watching live or joining us in a little bit and joining on the replay. Who we have here is Madyson Brown. She's a content creator in Houston, Texas. And how I met her was I found her on social media. Actually, I think she found me on social media and sent me a message. And what she saw was our Houston Hospitality Collective, noticed that it was an opportunity to get together and see what kind of projects we can work. I'm very happy to say that after just one day of working together, I loved the content that she created and loved the experience and everything that she's producing. She has worked hard to produce such good content that I asked her to join the collective with us, and she has obliged. So today, this is just going to be a quick interview about Madyson, so that way she can let others know what products that she offers and how she can help other hosts with their short-term rentals. So Madyson, how about a little introduction about yourself?
Yes. Hi. Thank you. That was very kind. Thank you. He kind of said it all. So, yeah, I'm Madyson. You can call me Mady, Madyson, whatever feels right to you. And essentially, I'm a content creator. I do create content for my personal well-being. Honestly, it's like an expression of my creativity, but then I do also offer content creation services. And so what Blake and I did was I visited one of his Airbnbs and I created content from the perspective of someone who would be staying in those Airbnbs. And that's kind of what I do. So I would essentially, I work with brands, I work with Airbnb owners. I also have a separate content creation agency that my partner and I run together where we work with luxury, automotive, and property developers where we create content for their properties, their cars, all that good stuff. So any type of content I create for you is essentially what I do. I love it. It's honestly, it just gives me so much joy. It gives me the opportunity to be home with my family and kind of work on my own schedule. And I get to express my creativity and my authenticity. And then I just get to like share it with the world. So it's great. And I love it. And yeah.
Yeah, and it
Does that
definitely
even
looks
answer
great.
your question? I hope it did.
Yeah, you absolutely did. Do you have like a particular creation, like a model or a structure, any kind of plan that you follow when you're creating content for others?
So I start with tons of research. I'm a natural researcher, I would say. So I just dive into the research and I take a look at your target demographic. I identify who your content would be pushed out to, who you would like your content to be pushed out to. And then I just learn about yourself or your company or your brand. And then essentially after that, it's pretty much intuition based. I just kind of get into the creative flow and these ideas kind of start flooding. And then I pick and choose which ones I think would be the absolute best based on your demographic. And then we just start creating from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we did a quick interview when we were going through to talk about who we were targeting. Who in my short-term rental we were targeting. We talked about how we're targeting families because it's a
Mm-hmm.
large property and we like to have families over at our place. But other places like we talked about my Tennessee location, that's turning out to be a little bit more like people traveling and working, construction workers, more contract based, longer term stays. So each property is going to be a little bit different. So I like how you look into those details so that we can get a proper plan to go through.
Absolutely, for sure.
So how did you get started in this?
So back in 2021, I actually graduated from college that with a degree that had nothing to do with content creation. I was a teacher. I taught ninth and 10th graders biology and chemistry. So very far from what I'm doing now. As you, I'm sure, can imagine, the education field is a lot. And I had a very young, well, he's still very young. My son was 5 at the time, and it was just him and I. So I had no time for him with teaching. And I was like, this just isn't working for me. And I needed to do something that would allow me the flexibility and the freedom to be there for my son and my family. And so I was lucky enough to be able to leave that. And then I mean, I grew up with social media. So naturally. I think I just gravitated towards it. And my partner is actually, he's into music production. And so I started creating content for his social media. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I really like doing this. And then here we are. So it just kind of led to now I do it all the time.
Yeah, and I think it works out great, especially when you're trying to create that, creating your own schedule, especially with a
Mhm.
family. That makes complete sense. And I think that even though, you're saying you're juggling these other things, the content you are creating does show that work ethic is there, and you make that effort.
Thank you.
Do you have any challenges that you face while you're getting going or while you got started?
Yes, absolutely. Just the transition from doing something like teaching into doing something that was completely creative. I was in school for a very long time. And so you go from, I want to use the term like the hustle culture, you go from hitting the books. And I was also working full time and raising a small child. So I was just like, go, go, go. And with content creation, it's very much, like I said, intuition based. It's very much allowing your creativity to flow. And so that transition is completely different. And so I kind of had to break my entire mindset. Otherwise, I would have been blocking myself from being able to be as creative as I can be because I was so focused on like treating it like it was a 9 to 5 when it's the complete opposite and it requires a completely different energy, I guess I could say. So it was a little tough, but we're here.
So do you get like ideas and then you just like jot it down real quick, or if an idea comes to your head, you just knock it out, or how does that work?
Oh, yeah, it honestly it depends on the idea. Some ideas I get in my head when I'm trying to fall asleep at night, so I'll have to like write it down in my notes app really quick. Some ideas I'll get and they'll like stick with me and it's like louder and it's like you need to act on this now type situation. So, and then yeah, those I'll just like jump into it and like I have to get this out of my system and so it can be a little chaotic, but like a beautiful chaos, like it's a nice, it keeps things interesting, that's for sure.
Is there any moments recently or that just came out to you that have just been felt like such success, or like any wow moments?
Oh, yes, actually. So, like I mentioned, my partner and I, we do luxury, automotive, and property development. So, we're actually partnering with a pretty well known, very talented property in the Houston area. And we were standing inside of his $3 million home, which I never thought I would see in person. Like, we were just there, and it's gorgeous and it's beautiful. And we're talking about the strategy of the content that we're going to create for him, and I was just like it felt like a dream, and I was like, oh my gosh, one day like this is going to be my home, hopefully, like that's the goal. So it's just kind of like for a long time this was just an idea or hadn't even been thought of yet, and now we're actually starting to see things take off. And even this opportunity right here, the fact that you're interested in like getting to know me, it's just like what is happening, but I'm having fun, so I'm not going to complain. But it's all great, it's wonderful.
So you talked about, when you're planning with your clients and getting through that. Can you run us through how, like, what technology you might use, or what apps or what systems you use to kind of get your content in place? Because I've tried to do it and it doesn't look half as good as yours, or it doesn't even
uh,
look like a quarter as good as yours.
well,
So,
thank
like, how do you
you.
make it look so polished?
Honestly, as far as tech goes, I I really we just like we have a brand new Sony camera and lens being delivered like as we speak. But up until that point, we use our iPhones. Like we both invested in the iPhone 14 Pro, which I don't know if you know, the camera and the tech on that thing is insane. Like you can film an entire movie with it. So we invested in that and a gimbal as far as our like physical technology goes. And then editing software, I do have access to Adobe. So I use Premiere Pro sometimes, but there's an app called CapCut, which makes it really easy if you want to get your content out there really quick. You just do it from your phone. And then because algorithms are so specific and they push your content based on using their platforms, I often do a lot of smaller edits in the platforms themselves just because you got to make the algorithm happy if you want people to see your stuff. So it's kind of like that.
Exactly.
It just depends. Every project is different, but those would be my top. Oh, and then I was going to say AI is a big thing. So Chat GPT has been a lifesaver sometimes. If I'm feeling a little blocked, or if I just need, sometimes I can speak things, but they obviously don't sound professional, So I'm like, I'll type out my script and I'm like, make this sound a little more authentic or a little more professional. And that's just, it speeds it up, makes it much better and much quicker.
Do you have any tips for people who are trying to make their content themselves and like how to get going? Or I mean, I know we would love to hire you to do it, but is there any tips for somebody trying just getting their social media started
Yeah.
or anything like that?
Yeah. Honestly, you just have to start. And I would say I've gotten to the point to where I am because I post and then I obsessively watch and I'm like, oh, I here, I could have done this here. I could have, and so it's like each project, each post gets better because of what you learned from your previous experience. So it's more just like jumping into it. And if you're into research like me, I spend hours on YouTube and you can learn anything from YouTube. There's millions of people who are very knowledgeable. So YouTube and starting would be my tips for sure.
Like, how would you funnel down the questions? I think because just like you said with ChatGPT, you have to give it the right prompts. And I think with
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, it's so broad. Is there anything like you could narrow down to help like get started or get going? Any like secret tips or anything?
Yeah, it depends on what specifically you need to know. So, for example, right now I'm actually in the process of getting towards YouTube and starting a YouTube channel. That's my end goal. At the start of this process, you literally search how to start a YouTube, and then from there, once you start understanding the process, I naturally just have new questions, and the SEO on these platforms are so smart and the algorithms are so smart. They will, as long as you have any kind of keyword, you're gonna just you'll see, I mean, I'm sure you'll see thousands of videos, and it's honestly just which one is calling out to you, because you could have two people make the exact same video about the exact same thing, but deliver it completely differently, and that's going to resonate with you better. So it's like it's just a trial and
Yeah.
error, and find which creator expresses it the best to you, and you'll get there because it does take a lot of time. So I hope that helped. I don't know. Did that help?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's a pretty complex thing. I've been looking into the SEO side of it myself and working on the website, and so that applies
Mhm.
to social media as well. And you end up
Absolutely.
going down this rabbit hole of SEO and trying to figure out what's going to work out best. And what I'm learning is it's just more of a, throw it out there, see if it works, and then if not, do it again.
Right.
Just keep making that effort.
Yeah, I think now every platform is SEO. Like I think every single one is in the SEO. I don't even know how to phrase that. They all use it. And so now the content that you make has to be searchable no matter what it is. So if we were to take your Airbnb, we would have to find a way to make it to where someone was going to like Google it. Like how would it show up on Google? And now that's what every single platform is doing as well. So it it's a lot, and that's the part that kind of trips me up a little bit too, is because my brain doesn't always think the same way that other people's does. So it's like I don't know how people are going to think what type of question to find my video, if that makes sense. So it's
Right.
definitely patience. You have to be patient with yourself, and eventually things will start to take off.
So where do you see your content creation business going from here on?
Oh, very far. I'm a bit of a dreamer, so I have big dreams. And as of right now, the vision that we have for ourselves is, as I was explaining in the beginning, we have Hollis Creative Media, and then I'm doing business as Madyson.Media, which is more the UGC. I think that's going to be more like content creator tools, tips for content creators. And then Hollis Creative Media is the overall content creation process. And so eventually we're going to merge and hopefully be an entire content creation agency where you get the marketing, you get the music, you get courses and connections and networking and all of that. So that's where I see it. Hopefully, maybe like 5 years down the line. Who knows? So anything can happen. So I'm intrigued by a lot of things. So we'll see.
So what my groups that I'm in, it's all short-term rental. It's all going to be those types of markets. So what do you look to do with short-term rental hosts, or how can you help partner with their businesses?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I kind of look at short-term rentals the way I would travel, because essentially that's usually why people are staying in short-term rentals. I mean, outside of like business and, just if you just need a place to stay while your house is finished being built, that kind of thing, which we could definitely target those markets as well if it's that specific. But I would treat short-term rentals as just a nice getaway that everybody, especially in today's society, needs. And what's so great about my personal lifestyle is I can reach a lot of demographics. I can reach someone who just needs to get out of the house and work in a different space. I have a family that I can take on a quick little staycation like we did with you. I have my partner where we could do like a couples getaway. So I could essentially embody whoever your target audience is and create content for that audience. And I think from what I've seen from the research I've done and just the short-term rentals that I do see, you would think I was like a short-term rental host with the way my feed is. I just like follow all of the Airbnbs and stuff, but essentially I could create that same content that gets them pushed out and keeps them booked and busy for other short-term rental hosts too. And I think it adds a much more personal effect. It kind of puts your viewer in my shoes, if that makes sense. Like they can see what a stay would be like for them and their family or themselves.
So I actually like that you're not a host, because I think that you have that other perspective. Because I can go through and say this is how cool my house is, but
Mhm.
it's because I know the ins and outs, or I know how to take advantage of the trip. But that's because I've been there, or I've lived there, or I've worked on the house for so long. Whereas you
Mhm.
just coming in, you've only had a couple hours there, and you have to just hit the ground running.
Right. And that was what I loved about, because I genuinely loved your property. Like I was probably so annoying. Like, oh my God, it's like you built it for me. And I felt like I was so excited to film, and I was so excited to just kind of get that across. Like it and that's the thing. I'm very passionate about homes. That's why we do the other property development stuff too. I just love homes. I love when people put time and energy into the spaces that they create, because it changes the entire environment. I mean, you know that. And so I'm able to take my passion for that and the interior design and just being able to get away and express that to other people who might not even know that they need it in their lives.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and read out your Instagram handle. It's at Madyson.Media and at pauluscreative.media. It's also in the chat for anybody who's here. Your website is Madyson, and that's spelled Madyson.media. And for that other one, it's Paulus Creative Media, HOLLIS creativemedia.com. And if there's anybody here who has any questions for Mady, we've worked together already, but none of you have. So if anybody has any questions, we're open for anything.
How does it work? So I know nothing about hiring a content creator, and
Yeah.
what can I expect to get from hiring one?
Right. So I can only speak for myself because each content creator is completely different. They're their own individual business. However, if we were to work together, I personally start off just getting to know you and your business and what you're looking for and the type of content that you want to put out. And then we together, if you don't have a vision already, we would create that vision together. And I like Blake mentioned earlier, I have a lot of creative ideas that just kind of flow to me. So if it's not too much, I would share those ideas with you. And basically, whichever ones that you liked or you wanted to gravitate toward and try out, we would set something up. We could negotiate however many videos you want, if you want photos, if whatever type of content you want. We would get very clear on that. And then essentially, I would create that content for you. You approve it if you like it. And once it's approved, I submit it to you, and then you would take it and you post it to your social media. And I also usually, typically, if you're not well versed in the just how like hashtags and all that stuff works, I have done tons of research. So I will definitely shoot out any hashtags that I think are recommended. I think with Blake, I found some sounds that were trending at the time. So when we all know that's pretty big. So I edited his video specifically to trending sounds that were trending when I sent them to him so he could use them right away. So yeah, it's a very free flowing process. And it's just kind of like we bounce ideas off of each other. And then once you're happy with the direction that you want to go, I create it for you. You don't even have to worry about it. And then I just send it to you and you post as you please.
What's kind of like the time commitment for, let me give you a situation. So I've got a property in Branson. It's a big 6-bedroom house meant for families to vacation. And I wanted you to go and create content for that. What kind of time commitment is that?
Depending on the amount of content that you want, I would probably suggest, just because it is in a completely different state for me, so I can only travel, depending on the amount of time that I'm there, we could do a couple days, we could do a week, and I would base that off of how much content you want and how much time it realistically is going to take me to make sure I capture that. And then essentially I'm pretty quick, I would say, like, and I'm very like motivated and I like to just kind of get it done. So that's all going to be based on how much content you want. But let's say you wanted 10 photos and 10 videos. I could probably knock that out in like a couple days, like especially if it's just the capturing part, and then I can like edit everything at home. I would get enough footage to where I could repurpose that content for you and create new videos. That way I don't necessarily have to fly out to Branson again, but I can continue from home to put together different videos. That way your audience doesn't feel like, oh, I've seen this before. I would capture enough to where we could continue for months on end, and you essentially just have it at your fingertips whenever you're ready for it.
What if you don't have any social media presence?
So I can tell you, I just started my social media presence, and it's not very big. And I think that as you post, you keep posting. Like I get maybe a follower a week or something, but you have to keep posting in order to get those followers. You have to keep pushing content out there in order to get people interested, and so that way you can build this list of people who are your followers. I've also tried other different methods to get followers. For instance, my Wi-Fi password at my house is follow me on Instagram, and then the password is my Instagram. And so that actually worked. The guests, my most recent guests, all 5 of them followed me on Instagram. So as you grow or as you get started and you create those posts, that's what creates the following, and then you can showcase your properties. And I think Instagram's a very popular platform for that, because it's all about photos and videos, and that's what your property is going to be showcased as. And I think I failed to mention at the beginning of this interview is that what we're interviewing Madyson about is content creation, not necessarily like influencer marketing. So influencer marketing, you might be sending somebody out to your place just to push out your space to their followers and hoping they follow. But what Madyson's doing is she's creating content for you to use and for you to continue to use. So, like she sent me a file and I can repurpose those videos. I can repurpose the photos, and I've actually even asked her to repurpose them. Said, hey, can you change this soundbite that you did? I want it to say the Houston Hospitality Collective instead of she originally did it for my main page, which is Duarte Destinations. So she's able to do that for you, and as you have that content, then you can start pushing your content out into social media.
Can you shorten version of that again? What are you saying? There's two differences in what you're saying?
Yeah, so she creates the content for you. She's the one that's going to go out and do the videos and set up the reels or basically create the system for you, so that way you have the content and you can push it out in your social media. It's not for her to push out and gain you followers. It's for you to push out to your people, especially like for you want to push it out to your local community, so that way anybody's looking for a house, this is what you have. So you want to showcase that, because she might not have the following that you need.
Right. And if I may, I would like to add to that. I'd also have no problem essentially doing that research for you as well, kind of following or just looking into similar accounts that are in your local areas and seeing what works well for them, how they've been able to gain their following and how they've been able to increase their engagement. What are their strategies? And I could create content based around things that have already worked. There's so much content out there. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. And if people who have a successful social media presence already that are doing what you're doing, I could easily just kind of switch that over. I'm not saying like I'll copy what they do, obviously, but I could make that fit your brand and your business, and that should help as well, push your content out more. So if that helps.
Whitney, did that answer your question?
It did, yeah. And I've heard of like the Instagram people coming to your house too, but do you, Mady, only provide the services for creating the content and then give it to the people? Or do you also have a business where you control, like, say I wanted a social media manager, basically?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I definitely do have the services and the skills to run the social media. And so Blake and I have actually discussed this recently, and I kind of deliver them as a package deal. And if you're interested, I can send you the proposal that I sent over to Blake. And depending on what you're looking for, which, if I'm not mistaken, do you have a social media presence at all? Or are you looking to build one?
Eventually, I do want to build one. I have one property now, but I plan to have more. So
perfect. Oh, that's perfect. This is the great. So we could definitely, if you were interested, we could start small, I would say, because right now you're just focused on getting the content out there. When you gain a larger following, it comes with a lot more work, because the algorithms need you to, they essentially want you to build a community and keep your people on the platform. And that comes with engaging with your followers. It comes with posting to your store. It's just everything, posting to your stories, posting once a day, like, and switching it up to where they don't get bored, if that makes sense. So I could definitely tackle all of that to where you don't need to worry about your social media at all and create the content for you. I would essentially just have you approve it, make sure it's aligned with you and your values and what you want to put out into the world, and take that off your hands. And then you have a whole social media account running in the background, driving people to your properties. So it's definitely possible. And it's a lot of work. So that's why I figured, like, if I'm doing this, I might as well do this too, because it's kind of hand in hand with each other.
I would never do this on my own. So it's like it's something definitely I would have to hire out, and I don't have the time to learn that skill set. How does that work that you just described align with more of the marketing side, where, we're trying to go out and find people to book direct or find people to stay at midterm stays or something like that? How does managing the social media, because we go through these social media platforms to find our
exactly
people.
So right, part of what I would offer, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about doing the market research about what works best in your area, because these platforms also work geologically. So what works in your city might have a completely different system as to what we have here in Houston. And so I would essentially go and find specifically the type of content and the type of demographic that you have in your area and research that market essentially. And I kind of just become them and then create the content that's directed towards them. So it's a very, I would recommend, on now that I'm like saying it out loud, I would recommend doing like sticking with one person instead of outsourcing, just because it makes sense to have a streamlined system instead of you have one person who's creating the content but doesn't necessarily know anything about the people you're trying to push your content to, and then you have someone who's pushing out your content but doesn't understand the content you're creating, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where I would be the middleman for your people and you, essentially. So I get to know your people and then I pretend I'm your people and I make content for your people. That so that is how that would work.
Yeah. No, thank you. That clears a lot up. So
I know social media it can be very intimidating and very stressful, especially if you want to grow on multiple platforms and each platform is different. So I hope I'm not making it like really intimidating. Like
not intimidating. It's more like I know where my strengths lie, and this is not one of them. So I definitely want to understand how to hire somebody with that skill set and knowledge and how it'll benefit me. So
absolutely. And I would just say the main thing is just find someone who is willing to understand you and your business, because that you're not just putting houses on a platform, you're putting like yourself out into the world. Like your homes are an expression of you. And so this has your name tied to it. So you just need someone who understands you and what you want to showcase and will represent you the best way that you can be.
Oh, is there a platform that should be like a major focus for us to look at? Like, I mean, is Facebook bigger than Instagram? Is Instagram where this needs to be and so forth? I don't know.
From my personal experience, and honestly, it's based on your preference. The platform that you want to push out to is all going to depend on the community that you would want to reach. So for example, TikTok is very geared towards Gen Z and millennials, not, and then Instagram which is my personal favorite, because you can just you can, it's not as time consuming. You don't, with TikTok you have to post 3 to 5 times a day to even see any type of growth, and they're very particular about what they push. Instagram, I feel like, is the best because you can showcase different sides of yourself, and it doesn't have to be reels, it doesn't have to be photos, you can mix everything. They also have, the last time I did research on this, they did have that middle ground demographic. It's almost like everyone uses Instagram. It came out right on time to where everyone has access to it. And then it's also tied to Facebook through Meta.
Yeah.
So the reels that you're posting
Mhm.
on Instagram are automatically posted on Facebook, even if you don't have a Facebook account. And so they can still find you through Facebook, even if you only post on Instagram. So I would say Instagram, plus people can DM you. They can, that's how Blake and I got in touch. I was able to DM him and then we kind of connected from there. TikTok, you can't really do that unless y'all are following each other. So it's like, I would recommend Instagram. They are going to prioritize businesses and creators because it's not so much people who just kind of post everyday content as far as just like to keep up with their family. Those accounts aren't necessarily a priority anymore. But if you run a business and you run your account as a creator, that's what the platform is moving towards now.
Do you have to specify that it's a business in Instagram?
Brian, on the difference on business account and the creator account, the creator account lets you use more audio feeds or more sounds because you're just a creator. Whereas if you're a business account, it gives you more links on your business page because it's assuming you're going to need it. And then, but it restricts your sounds that you can use, so there's no copyright infringement.
Right. So you probably couldn't use the trending sounds, which is what naturally pushes your content with the way Instagram works now. But yeah, that's actually completely right.
You were saying, Brian?
Oh, I created one TikTok video and it looked pretty cool, but I don't know like if the same you can't push TikTok over to Instagram. You got to create, or I guess you can. You just record it and save it as video and then do it that way. I don't know
You
how
could
that
do it that way, but then there are also platforms that you can use that remove the TikTok watermark for you,
works.
and you can just download it without the watermark and then repost it to Instagram, and Instagram will never know.
Looking for that. I was trying that and I couldn't figure that part out.
Yeah, I've never personally used it. I actually do the method you do where I screen record, or I'll edit in an outside software and then just have it there and then
Yeah.
upload. But yeah, so it just depends on what you have available to you.
All right,
I
I'm gonna
get a
try to
question.
see if I can't share that video. I don't even know if the audio is gonna play. I can send it over to you guys, or maybe just put a link in the chat, and maybe you can see it on your own screens.
That would probably be better.
So with that video specifically, I basically just gave Blake's audience the perspective of a family staying in his home. Like it was a little staycation. Summer just started, I think I said, and there's like a voiceover that went with it. So I'll write out an entire script and then do the voiceover for the script as well.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, I was going to ask you to post your example again. I mean, I had a copy of it, but I thought it was done really well. So
Yeah, I think that I'm sure you've done walkthroughs yourself with the gimbal on your properties, but I think if you had something like where you have a top dollar property where you're trying to get it marketed, something like this might be helpful to you. And I think also what our next project is how-to videos, because I get questions all the time on my guests asking, how do I turn the air conditioner on? How do I check in? How do I check out? How do I turn the spa on? So we have this long list of how-tos that we're going to work on. And when we go back to Whitney's question on what's the time, how long is this going to take? Well, it depends on what you're asking, because when Madyson first went out, I didn't ask for anything. I said, "Oh, let's see what we got. Let's see what we can do." And now we're going into, okay, well, now I need this specific set of things, and how long is that going to take? You let me know, because it's going to be helpful to me if we can create this posts ahead of time so I can send to the guest like a guidebook or like a house manual, but it's all in video instead of in paper or even the digital websites people don't like to go to, but they'll watch a quick 10-second video on how to turn the air conditioner on.
That's how we learn now. Everything is short form. Everything's video.
Yes, everything is short form. Well, thank you guys for joining in during, and Madyson, thank you for taking the time to talk with us and introducing. Brian, who is in this chat, is one of our collective members, so I'm glad he was able to make it. He's a realtor in Spring, and he also works the whole Houston area. He does, I think, more so those new builds type of things, but he's our resident realtor and he helps us out a lot. So if you need anything from him, I'm sure you guys can connect well.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yay.
I don't have any other questions, but it's very nice to meet you and thank you for coming. I think I'm probably going to get off this and have about 20 questions written down that I wish I had asked, but
No worries. If you want, just shoot them over and we can connect. And I'm actually right here in Spring as well. So
excellent.
right in the area.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and I'll definitely reach out.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. This was great. I hope I didn't overwhelm anyone. I hope it was helpful. So
No, you did really well.
okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Madyson. I think the idea of content creation is new to a lot of people. They don't really know what it means or what it gets into. So having something for somebody to watch or to understand from our perspectives, that way we can at least get a basis and take it further in the future. I think it's very helpful.
Yay. Awesome. I'm really happy that we did this. So thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Maddie.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.